The chairman, first time here as chairman of the Republican Party in the state of Mississippi, Mike Hurst. Well timed, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I tell you, you're just lucky, I guess, Paul.
We have a good contents producer in Alex.
You got a great content producer in Alex.
She knows how to do this. She can think ahead of time. First of all, this little note here. Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson from Mississippi, the ranking member of the Committee on Homeland Security, did introduce legislation that would remove Secret Service protection from anyone convicted of a felony or sentenced to prison. He did this earlier. These people play chess at a level I don't think sometimes the Republicans play. But you heard the montage of different voices there.
I did.
Were you surprised at the verdict?
I was surprised at the verdict. I'd seen two jurors were left on the jury who were attorneys, and I was hopeful that they would review the evidence, they review the jury instructions that the judge gave, and really weigh this, but that didn't appear to happen. What really just breaks my heart, having been a federal prosecutor for almost 15 years and just grew up in the system, around the system, seeing the good that is done through the system, to see it manipulated and to see it used for political gain, to see a prosecutor run on a platform of persecuting an individual, in this case, Donald Trump, his political enemy, and then sadly, to see a judge go along with that. To see a judge allow that to happen, to see a judge give jury instructions that don't make any sense, that don't uphold what we believe to be our judicial system. So it's been the last 24 hours. I'll be honest with you, Paul, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all last night because
you were in the same category as a lot of people. I woke up at about 1 o'clock. I couldn't go back to sleep.
Yeah, it worries me because if they can do this to a former president, if they can do it to someone who is currently running for president, I mean, what can they do to any average American citizen like you?
Mike, I posted that yesterday, and I don't think people understand it. But when you start, I've always said freedoms are like an old rubber band or the elastic in a pair of cheap drawers or whatever. Right. Once you stretch those things, they never go back to form. The more you stretch them,
absolutely,
they never go back to form.
Absolutely.
And we see it over in my lifetime. From the impeachment of Richard Nixon, there's always payback.
That's right. Yeah.
And there's going to be payback here. Megyn Kelly has a cut on that. I'll play it in a moment or two. And she's spot on this one. Here's what we don't understand. Us lesser people without law degrees, such as the esteemed ones in the chair there. If this was so radical, so misused, everything was inappropriate, all of these things were unanswered questions, all of them were out of the norm, isn't there some type of mechanism for the defendant's attorney to ask for another judge or have that judge recused?
Absolutely.
And why didn't that happen in this case?
No, they did. They asked for another judge. They asked for recusal, and this judge, even though he had donated to Democrats, even though his family works for Democrats, and here's the thing to remember. The judicial system, the way it's set up is the judge is supposed to recuse not only if he has a direct or clear biases, but even if there's an appearance of a bias.
Yes.
And here, I mean, it was clear there was a bias, and even if that was unclear to some, the appearance was terrible. So why he would not do that in this case is beyond me. And then to give those jury instructions where you're telling the jury, the prosecutor really didn't focus on what the underlying felony, the underlying crime that these business records that were falsified related to. But, there have been some talked about, and you guys, if you just come up with one, you can convict. That's crazy, Paul. That's absolutely insane.
Sean in Clinton says, guys, I truly believe that what took place yesterday was the precursor to martial law. I can't argue with you because we always said this, and I've said it before, that if you think that Joe Biden got 81 million votes last time and won without anything unblemished in this, then you don't think these people could steal an election then or in November, then you wouldn't think that they could take their greatest competitor or their number one competitor and put him possibly in jail. What's next for this?
Well, before I address that, let me just say one quick thing. When I was U.S. Attorney, and even when I was in the AUSA, we were told often, there was this very famous speech of this old Attorney General back in the 40s said, one of the most powerful peacetime forces known in our country, who has more control over life, liberty, reputation than any other person in America, is the prosecutor. And if you don't have men and women of character in those positions, this is why I'm a huge advocate of going after these progressive prosecutors who refuse to enforce our law, or in this case, enforce the law they want to enforce against their political enemies. If you don't have men and women of character in those roles, then you're exactly right. We're going to martial law. We're going to chaos, and that's what we are. The next steps here are the judge has scheduled the sentencing date for July 11th, which is just a few days before the RNC's convention. I looked up the statute before I came. It's 4 years for every count. So, Paul, we're looking at potentially 136 years in prison if the judge wanted to. Now, most commentators would say this is a white-collar crime. Trump's never been convicted of anything, first-time offender, all that stuff. But all bets are off. I mean, we thought that this was going to be a level playing field. Some thought this would be a level playing field. That's been all thrown out the window. I mean, this is people have been calling this lawfare. This is warfare. This is warfare, and I hate to say that, and I hate to see that, but that's what the Democrats have done to our judicial system.
Yeah. It's a sad day. It's a historic day.
It is.
But
people will look back and remember where they were this day. I think they will look back and remember where they were May 30th.
I don't want to push back on that one, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think we're so dumbed down that at least half the country, so dumbed down, they have no idea. And the other half, me included, if you ask me to get this correct, exactly what he did,
right,
in comparison, what was the crime?
Right.
Ask me who the victims were in this.
Right.
I'm lost.
Yeah. Well,
even the people who are knowledgeable to politics don't know what the hell's going on here.
Absolutely. Byron York was saying that this morning. If you turned into CNN, the CNN commentators couldn't tell you what the crime was. If you turned to MSNBC could not tell you what the crime was. The crime charged was falsification of business records with an intent to defraud in commission of another crime. I mean, you can argue that the falsification of business records is a misdemeanor, but that statute of limitation had run.
That's true.
And so this had to be manufactured, committed with another crime that, this is crazy, Paul. The prosecutor never proved. That's where the judge should have stepped in right there.
Yeah, well, he is the perfect judge. How did we get the perfect judge? Or let me put it this way. How did they get the perfect judge?
Right.
And we'll talk about that and more coming up next. We're back with former U.S. Attorney and now the chairman of the state GOP, Mike Hurst. All right, here goes the judge. There were 24 sitting judges in New York County. And Mershon is an acting judge. Now, what does that mean? He wasn't even on that list of 24.
Yeah,
they're assigned cases randomly, so it is statistically impossible, according to this post on X, that this judge was assigned to the Trump Organization case, the hush money case also. By the way, he has also served, ironically, just statistically impossible, but he's also on the Steve Bannon case. If I'm Steve Bannon's lawyers...
Pure coincidence.
Yeah. If I'm Steve Bannon's lawyers, Steve, plead guilty and get out of this.
Just run to the next court. That's what you have to do.
All right, so how many days, what's the timeline on this one, Mike, that he has to do this as far as sentencing? Because sentencing is coming up.
We got about a month and a half. July 11th is what the judge set the sentencing date for. And anything can happen. He can sentence him to prison, home confinement. He can slap him on the wrist, send him home. I have to imagine if they've gone to this much trouble, if they wasted this much time, if they've put in this much effort and work, I hope not, but I have to imagine there's going to be something more than just a slap on the wrist.
What would the What is the bond? Anybody talking about the bonding, the amount of the bond?
So the last I saw, that the judge asked after the guilty verdict yesterday afternoon what the bond was, and he's free on bond. President Trump's free on bond, but if he sentenced him, if the judge sentenced Trump to prison, obviously Trump could ask for a bond pending appeal, but that's at the will and the pleasure of the judge, the discretion of the judge.
If he puts him in prison, who knows what's going to happen? Here's the other part that I'm washed down to. This is everything. You get all the dirt off, and you look at exactly why would you people do this, and it always comes back to this. And I just can't figure out anything else. There was polling, and these people live and die by polling. There was polling that says this guy's hard to beat. He's not going to be able to be beat. We can't beat him. We can't even beat him because with all of these illegals we got in, we don't have enough time to cultivate this. We're having some problems on the street levels. We've given them these forms and everything. Forms are not coming in. We plan on cheating, but my God, we got more opposition to cheating right now, and that's not a surety, and we want a surety. So the other thing is playing our cards. Polling indicates over and over that if he is a convicted felon, he's going to lose some of his base.
Right.
That gives us an edge.
Right.
Do you think that was it?
I think that was I do. I think that was the plan or the strategy from the get-go. But I will tell you, it flipped on them. As soon as he was indicted, his numbers went up. I think you're going to see as soon as, just like last night, as soon as he had a guilty verdict against him, his website crashed because of all the donations. I mean, the state of New York, and I can barely say it's a state, but the state of New York has turned into a banana republic where all the prosecutors from the state AG all the way down to the Manhattan district attorney is so focused on getting this one man who just, for whatever reason, gets under their skin so much that they refuse to prosecute violent criminals. I mean, we're going after someone who they're saying has falsified a document while people, rape, pillage, steal, murder on the streets of New York without any consequences.
I look at this maybe because I am a conservative, but as important as an attack on American and the attack on the Constitution, almost like 9/11.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, where is the Supreme Court in here? What can be done about that? Does it have to go through the normal channels of appeal? And if the appeal process is as tainted as the one that just concluded, where do we go from there?
Yeah, that's the concern, because the appeals process is the state appeals process. Unless he can find some type of federal constitutional violation, it's going to go through the state New York Court of Appeals. So that's not really encouraging.
Wait a minute. Couldn't you find a couple of violations in here?
Due process? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you could. But that's going to be a long road. I think right now what Trump has to focus on, his legal team has to focus on, is making sure he is kept out of prison. Because here's the deal. If this state judge moves forward and tries to put him in prison at the July 11th sentencing hearing, what does that do not only for the election, for the remaining months leading up to the November 5th election, what does it do after he is elected president? It's going to happen, Paul. This is going to make the verdict, not in this case, the verdict's going to be on Election Day. And the people are going to speak with their feet, they're going to speak with their vote, and they're going to put him back in the White House. Mark my words.
Then he can immediately pardon himself and that'll be wiped out.
No, he can't, because it's a state crime. He can't pardon himself as a state crime. He can dismiss the charges that are pending against him at DOJ because that's federal. Mm-hmm. But a state crime, whether it's this case or the Georgia case, he's at the mercy of the state authorities.
Could the governor of the state do it?
Absolutely. But have you met that woman? Have you seen that woman?
I'm talking a future governor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. But there's not much hope in the state of New York.
This woman, I wouldn't have her replace the 13-year-old on the product line of Hyundai in Alabama. Just to put it that way.
Yeah. I would tell you, I'm on a couple of text threads with my old U.S. attorney colleagues around the country, and it has just been a dark 12 hours for us who have grown up in this judicial system, who has put our life, our tears, our soul in making sure that it's upheld. The Constitution is upheld. People's liberties and freedoms are protected. And to see this done in what we used to work inside of is just, It's just heartbreaking.
I thought about you last night. I was watching Fox News, and there was somebody on, I forgot who it was basically saying the pinnacle of being in law, if you just dream about being at the DOJ.
Yeah,
being
absolutely.
Part of that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the professional level, and you just dream of it. And what they have done to that agency,
right? Yeah,
is just a crime.
When I was in college, I actually worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office as a student clerk, and that's where I first saw these amazing men and women who were federal prosecutors doing this incredible work. Republicans and Democrats, Paul, but they were doing the work of justice, and it was just so inspiring, and that's all I wanted to be when I grew up. And I got the opportunity to do that for almost 10 years. And to this day, I love my job now. I love everything I've done, but to this day, being a federal prosecutor in the courtroom, standing up and say, I represent the United States of America, and, getting paid to do justice, getting paid to do the right thing, not convict, not do anything else, but just do the right thing. Yeah, absolutely. That's the best job in the world.
Those days are gone. They're absolutely gone. And it's not a recent thing that the Democrat Party, because I've been saying this for years, that it's all about party, more so than anything else. When it comes to patriotism of party, choose party. When it comes to people, it's party. And they do this over and over again. There is this tremendous seismic shift, I do believe, of African Americans, blacks in this country saying this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. But I think what resonates with the black brothers and sisters of this country, understanding this probably more than Caucasian Americans, if they could do this to Donald Trump, then damn right they could do it to me, but we won't make the news.
That's right. That's right.
You'll never know it, but they certainly can do it to me also. Megan Kelly.
What just happened today is a line we can't uncross. And these Democrats will rue the day they decided to use lawfare to stop a presidential candidate. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about tit for tat. You just wait, and it won't be Hunter Biden the next time. It's going to be Joe Biden. It could potentially still be Barack Obama. It could still potentially be Hillary Clinton. We're going to have to look at what the statutes of limitations are on the various crimes they surely committed. We're going to have to look at passing laws to revive those dead crimes, felonies or misdemeanors, so that those cases can be brought out of time.
Republicans do a bad job at retribution. they really do.
I think it's because, I mean, to me, that's just that's below us. That's right.
Yeah, I understand.
But I think we have to imagine what Megan was talking about, which is if an individual was running for district attorney in Madison, Rankin County, and on his platform he promised to prosecute Barack Obama if he ever stepped foot in our county. And he did, and he prosecuted him, and then he had a judge come in and do everything the prosecutor says. I mean, wouldn't the media and the Democrats be going crazy?
Yeah,
absolutely, they would.
New chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, and on his plate would be an answer to one of the guys who posted last night, was State Senator Bryce Wiggins. I would imagine you got up and saw that one. And by the way, the senator really called you out as far as the MSGOP. So hang on. Yeah. We'll give you the platform. Coming back in a moment. All right, Mike Hurst, former U.S. attorney and also current state GOP chairman. Before I get to Bryce Wiggins here, Elon Musk had a post in the past 24 hours. It was very interesting, though. It's working to ensure cleaner elections. Musk and fellow billionaire Nelson Peltz, P-E-L-T-Z, have, and I'm quoting this, have told acquaintances that they're working on a data-driven project to ensure votes are fairly counted. And they've also briefed Trump on a plan that they've developed to invest in a data-driven project to prevent voter fraud. If we were like we should be in this country, Democrats and Republicans both trying to make us a better country, to decrease the importance of the federal government, to stop drugs, stop crime, all of these different things, they jump on this one. Both of them invite him in and said, do whatever you can do. And make sure that we have the sanctity of the vote is better than it's ever been before. That's why I looked at the tweets of Bryce Wiggins, And I don't know what I think he was just binging on Robert De Niro movies last night. Your thoughts on what he said?
Well, you might want to give your audience some context because I don't know if they all know what Bryce said.
I'm looking for this as I speak.
He tweeted
somewhere.
that, quote, all jurors deserve thanks and respect. They are the foundation of the best judicial system in the world. I agree with that. I do think those who agree to serve. I've seen many people make excuses, try to get out of jury service. Those who serve, yes, absolutely.
But here's the rest of that, though. Then he said the GOP and the MS-GOP leadership, it kind of points the finger at the guy in the chair there, has a lot of soul-searching to do. Hashtag convicted felon.
Right.
How do you read? What do you read into that?
Well, I'm a pretty direct guy, Paul. I saw that last night, and I called Bryce immediately.
Oh, did you?
Oh, absolutely. I don't talk about people behind their back. I'm going to call you directly. I'm going to ask you, and I did. And we texted back and forth, and we talked for about 30 minutes. And he and I don't agree on a lot, but I really, truly wanted to know what we as a party, a state party, needed to search our souls for. And, I think it comes down to some people within our party like and love Donald Trump. Some people in our party do not like nor love Donald Trump. The problem we have is whether you like or love Donald Trump or not, we as Republicans, our job in the state party is to promote and elect other Republicans. And when the majority of your state overwhelmingly votes for a man named Donald Trump, who is going to be the Republican candidate for president in 2024, we as a state party are going to support him, we're going to push him, and we're going to get him elected. So, I did a lot of soul searching last night, Paul. I did. I took his advice. I did a lot of soul searching. And what I came up with is, as a party, we're going to elect a hell of a lot more conservative Republicans in the coming years. We're going to really push the envelope. We're going to go back to our principles, and we're going to go back to the foundation that this party was started. It was founded upon Lincoln. It's founded upon Roosevelt. It's founded upon Reagan. And that's the principles we're going to go back to. You were talking about our African-American brothers and sisters out there. They're beginning to wake up. They're beginning to see what almost 200 years of Democratic rule has done for them, which is nothing. And I think they're going to be – you're seeing this in Mississippi. You're seeing it with Rodney Hall up in DeSoto County being elected to the legislature, with Thomas Tuggle up in DeSoto County being elected sheriff. Yeah. You're seeing individuals who are coming back to the party, and they're saying, you know what? I like liberty and freedom. You know what? I like keeping a little more of my money in my pocket. I like, law enforcement and the strong military.
What did he say? I'm not
going to get into the details. I like to go back to Reagan's 11th commandment. I'm not going to talk bad about another Republican, but I will tell you this. We as Republicans, we disagree. And I tell people this all the time. I love my wife to death, but my wife and I disagree. But we love each other, and we're going to be together. But here's the deal. If we can't get back to the principles and the foundational principles that we as Republicans believe in, I think we're going to stray far, far, far from what we are supposed to be fighting for.
Here's a guy that's on the Judiciary Committee in the State Senate, appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, which, by the way, the Lieutenant Governor tweeted out something earlier in support of Donald Trump. But he heads that committee. Are there any consequences whatsoever as far as doing this? Because what he's asking to do, if a movement started and he headed that movement, it's not going to be good for the Mississippi GOP at this stage of the game. Right. Especially with the vast amount of people who are in support of Donald Trump. As far as what you've just said, you said that forget the nominee. We either hate him or have to love him. I don't remember in my lifetime voting for any candidate that I tremendously loved or tremendously hated.
That's right.
I mean, is this the guy that can best lead? And in this particular case, like none other in my lifetime or your lifetime, we have a chance to see what he did 4 years ago.
Right. And if you focused on the principles and not the person, and that's what I told Bryce, look at what happened in this courtroom. I was focused on what the prosecutor failed in his job. Not only failed, but he intentionally manipulated the system to go after a political enemy. I looked at what the judge failed in his duty to uphold and enforce the law. Those are the issues I looked at. it could be Trump, it could be Obama, whomever. But if we give away our judicial system and allow it to run wild, I don't care who is sitting in the defendant's seat. You, me, anybody, we're the ones that are going to be in jeopardy. And that's what the focus should be on, not the individual, but the
searching
process.
For, and I'll invite him on, but I'm searching for what was his answer to this. Just dump Trump? What beyond that?
I don't know. I don't know.
He didn't give you any clarity to that.
Well, I just go back to, some people do not like Trump, and some people like Trump a lot. And again, to me, it's about principles. It's not about people, it's about principles. And if we get back to principles, the right people will show up and fight for those principles.
The Democrats are playing real dirty out here. When in history have you seen a party try to lock up a political opponent like this? When have you seen anybody with a $500 million bond? Especially when the banks was made whole. Ask y'all this question. How is this not a dictatorship? Because if they try to knock out a political opponent, that means we all left with Jim Crow Joe. Wouldn't this be trying to take away half of the country's right to choose who they want to be president? If they do this to Trump, then they'll do this to any other political opponent. Therefore, the establishment always gets the president they want, and the people don't have a choice. Secondly, who the hell is really running this country? Because I'm sorry, but it's not the guy with dementia. Listen, the country was doing good up under Trump, so maybe he's not the problem. Maybe he's standing in the way of the problem. Maybe he's standing in the way of the agenda, and that's why they're going so hard.
Yeah, and the other part, too, and I think they understand this, that right when the election window opens, here comes the Democrats with the fear and the monger, don't you go near these evil Republicans, and then they do this with the help of the media and everything else until the day after Election Day. And then the day after Election Day, you don't even see these idiots again until the next election window opens. And I think people are beginning to understand that now.
Yeah, I don't know who that was that just spoke, but you could have saved my entire 1 hour presentation. Just let that guy speak, and we would have been done. So that was so good.
He is absolutely, positively straight on to this one. And in things like, whether you like it or not, TikTok or X now, and even Facebook and Instagram are giving voice to these people out there.
Absolutely. And it should be encouraging, back to what you were talking about, Musk, bringing transparency to elections, bringing voice to the people. Again, I grew up in a single-wide trailer in rural Newton County. My folks did not have a voice. My folks, they worked in oil fields, they worked on pipeline, they worked driving log trucks. Finally, we have a man who stands up for the little people, a man who can form a complete sentence, unlike our current president, and someone who's going to fight for folks. And that's why people are fired up about Trump.
The other and I mentioned this before, and the other reason I get a little aggravated at people like Bryce is, here's a guy that didn't need any of this. If he decided not to run, you'd never hear. Donald Trump would be on TV again. He'd be on Jimmy Fallon and everybody else. I mean, and his life would be a hell of a lot better and more enriched in different ways.
Yep.
And he wouldn't pass his headache on financially and everything else to his kids.
He wouldn't be indicted. His company wouldn't be gone. Yeah,
nobody care about him.
Absolutely.
But he's tested all of this. He's been under fire. It has cost him in a multitude of ways. And at the time he's in the foxhole, he's got a lot of people in this country who is there with him. And now when the foxhole is under fire more than ever before, you've got some people who get out of the foxhole and run.
Right.
And they were always cowards. They were always looking for a reason to run. And most of us in Mississippi can't do that.
Right.
We can't give up to our brother in the foxhole.
No, I think you're right. I think this whole plan that the Democrats have concocted to throw him in jail is going to backfire. And the silent majority that we talked about back in the 80s is going to be unleashed come November.
I'll give you the final thoughts when we come back in just a moment.
I love them. They know I love them.
So your thoughts about this whole thing?
My thoughts are that the pressure is on. If you could see, I don't know, the line to get in here right now, it's like an hour plus long. And there's a lot of people coming out here. And it looks like, it just looks so diverse. It looks amazing. It looks beautiful. It's just defeating every narrative there is. And Democrats are about to have a hard time in November because now New Yorkers are probably going to wake up and start asking, who are the politicians representing me? And I think this is not about Trump. This is about the strategy of Trump coming here, putting pressure on them. And Democrats, they've been getting our vote for so long, man, for so long, for years, decades. What has changed? Poverty, not that many jobs out here. It's a struggle, you know, so I'd like to see Republicans step it up, you know, invest in the RNC here, start reaching out, making a difference. There is many ways and many organizations that do not get the recognition out here. I think Trump coming here, that's why he's an anomaly.
There you go. That says everything, Mike, that I wanted to say myself on that one, that the GOP in the state of Mississippi has got to be more proactive in going after conservative African Americans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the focus on that is conservative. I don't care if you're white, black, green, purple. We're going to focus on conservative values and conservative policies. You know, I was talking to, I got a text from a pastor on the coast the other day. They've started a Spanish conservative club down on the coast. We're seeing more African Americans, individuals like this guy right here, talking about how Trump is bringing government, self-government back to the people. You know, those are the things we have to talk about as conservatives. Those are the things we have to give the power back to the people. You know, the elites, the establishment, the things that Trump is fighting against, that's the ones that are trying to keep him locked up. That's the ones that are trying to keep him down. That's one that continue to indict him.
Yeah, was it, and this has to go back a little bit, was this true that the one or two different jurors that were giving a problem to the rest of the juries, they wanted to, apparently they wanted to pronounce that he was innocent, that the judge actually was going to replace them with an alternate?
I have not heard that.
I heard that this morning on a story.
One of the things that did concern me was when the jurors came back and continued to ask the judge questions about the instructions. You know, if you've served on a jury, the judge reads you lengthy page after page after page of legal jargon of his instructions. And one of the things this judge would not do, and I've seen judges do this, and I think it's a good practice actually, the judge would not send a physical copy of the jury instructions back to the deliberation room to allow the jury to look at it.
That was 55 pages long.
That's correct. And how Paul, I can't remember anything 55 pages long. How's a juror supposed to remember that in a high intense environment?
You better have them alphabetized because if you want to search through that.
That's right. That's right. But I think there's a lot for us as a state party to be excited about. I think there are a lot of people like the individuals we've talked about, the minorities. You know, we've had groups of trying to improve female participation within the party in elected office. There's a lot of things that we can do as a party to grow the base. The teenagers, the college Republicans, the young people. The young people are they continue to be on social media. They continue to see these Democratic policies, and they're enamored with them in the beginning. But then when they get a job and they start having their taxes taken out, and they start having all these bills and these requirements that adulthood brings to you, they start to see that we as a Republican Party stand for things that they believe in.
We've been kind of isolated, and I should say insulated from this this narrative as far as the illegals are concerned. Florida, Texas, and all of that. But now with the situation in Tunica, by the way, got some information. We'll talk about this coming up on Monday. I think Dan Eubanks is going to give us an update. He'll be with us on Monday. But the Tunica County Board of Supervisors had a meeting either yesterday, day before yesterday, I think it was. The company rep was there that wants to apparently buy that building. They can make over $100 million of taxpayer money a year from this. I think it's $300,000 per week.
Oh my gosh!
If they max it out. And the other part of this, and I'm not going to speak to this. I'll let Dan speak to it. There was in the works, you know, we got a new boat factory that's coming in that area. And there was also in the works an economic deal that apparently is dead now because of this. And I want to go any further on that one because I don't have the rest of the information. But we'll talk about it on Monday.
Well, I can tell you, 6 years ago, I led the largest immigration raid in our nation's history here in Mississippi. We seized almost 700 illegal aliens at a couple of chicken plants around central Mississippi, and I was raked over the coals nationally. NPR, CBS, you name the networks.
I remember.
Yep. And now we've had almost 10 million, some reports 20 million over the border in the last 3.5 years. The only, you know, your audience needs to ask themselves, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And I think the only people that may be listening to your radio is the illegal alien. They're better off today because of this administration. But it sure as hell isn't the American citizen.
That's my plan B. My plan B is to head to Mexico and come back across. All right, man. Thank you so very much.
Thanks,
I
Paul.
appreciate you coming.